Hello folks, welcome to my channel, Island Living. I'm taking a video here, driving from the west side of the island to the central part of the island. As I'm driving, you're going to see there is some brown areas. Once again, I've spoken in my other videos about we've had a lot of fires. So, off and on through the years. So the island is pretty green for the most part. We do get a lot of rain, but we do have the island still trying to grow back from the fires that we have. We have fires quite often. So some of this you're seeing is brown, but there is a lot of greenery here. Driving from the west side of the island to the central side of the island is about 28-30 miles. It's where the airport is. So the airport is located, Kalalui Airport is located in the central part of the island. It's near, when you first come out of the airport, the first light you hit, you're at Costco. Then you're near Walmart, the Target, all of our industrial area. There's food, Jack in the Box, McDonald's, that kind of stuff. So that's in the central part of the island. So to go from Kalalui, say to Lahaina, Kanapali, Kahana West, Kahana, Ipili, or Kapalua, it's about average is about a 45-minute drive. It's about 28 to 30 miles, but it's average about 45-minute drive. And I know you're all going to say, well, you can get there quicker. Our speed limit is 45. There's about a mile where it's about 55. But usually it's 45 is our speed limit here on Maui. I'm in a 35-mile zone right now. When all the tourists returns, we open back up October 15th, I believe. Then there's days, especially Friday and Saturday nights, meaning like 4, 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. It takes an hour to an hour and a half to go 28 miles. So, coming from the airport. Coming from central Maui. It's not just Friday and Saturday, but those seem to be busier than the other days, but it's still very busy when the tourists are here. We have the 9 million tourists that visit. Traffic can be quite heavy. So right now it's clear because it's still in the early October and we don't have any tourists here. So off to my right is the ocean, and to my left is the mountain, which is called the Maka. Ocean is called Kai, K-A-I, meaning ocean. So this is the bypass, the new bypass they built about 3 years ago. It was supposed to move people along a lot quicker, but it doesn't really. We used to drive closer to the ocean. There is the road down there still closer to the ocean, which merges into this one. We're higher up here, closer to the mountain now, but it really hasn't helped at all in our travels. Again, the majority of people usually driving are the tourists because they outnumber us. The ratio is high. There's only 155,000 people that live in the island. You have elderly, children that don't drive, and then you have people use the bus or Uber, Lyft, that kind of stuff. So the majority of the drivers are the visitors, the tourists here, and you don't need to drive fast because you can get pretty much anywhere pretty quickly. Now that the road is open, it'll probably take me an estimate of about 35 minutes to get to Central. I've gotten there quicker before, but I don't try to. There's no reason to speed. I just enjoy the island as you're driving, enjoy the view, the ocean, the mountains, and so forth. It's a pleasant drive right now. But yeah, you can see all the brownery. This has all been burned. It almost gets burned every year. It grows back, then something happens where it gets burned again, and sometimes it's cigarettes, sometimes it's arson, sometimes it's catalytic converters, different reasons that people burn our island. And it's intentional. The cigarettes out the window aren't, but we don't want you throwing your cigarettes out the windows because we do have fires. And it always seems to be on the west side. There's been a few lately in the Poly, which we'll be going through. And there's been some on the south side and near the airport, so they've moved it around a bit, but most of the time it seems to be the west side that people burn the most. So anyway, we're headed we just came out of Lahaina, going what we call south, and we're going to be headed through a little small town quickly. It's one little store there, and Lahaina's pies, and that's called Olawalu. Okay, so we're actually entered it right now. It says welcome to Olawalu. This is a good surfing area. The surfers love to surf right here. They're all out there now. It's a coral bottom though. It's not a sandy bottom. So you're on some type of rock going out, and your feet do get cut, and you know, that kind of thing. Get kind of rough on your feet. You have Maui paintball here on the left, laser tag. You have to call to see when their availability is. That's not all the time. I do know people use it and they have quite a lot of fun, but I don't know the price on that or the hours or anything, but it's fun. Laser tag or paintball. So this area here, you got to slow your speed limit down to 35. You're supposed to. We have a lot of accidents in this area because people don't. On your right side, on the ocean side, Kai side, is Olawalu. There will be a campground. People can camp there in tents and stuff. And of course, then on the left, the mountainside, there is, like I said, the store and Leona's Pies, which has some sandwiches and stuff, and a little store, but convenience store. So if you stayed at the campground, you could get your food across the street. But the main store, like a larger store, would be back there in Lahaina, which is just a couple miles. You could walk that or hitchhike there, or use your car or so forth. So we always slow down coming through this area, and then it goes back up to 45. Everything is still closed pretty much till October 15th, and then they're going to start opening things up, allowing tourists to come. They got to get checked before they get here, make sure they're healthy. But yeah, you can see the mountain. See, it's all brown all the way up to the windmills. This burns, and when it usually burns, it usually burns 7,000 to 8,000 acres, and it's almost every year. Sometimes it's every other year, and it grows back. It starts to get a little green, and then something happens again. So it's been like this for many years. Somebody burns it, or like I said, a cigarette or something goes out the window. So it's really pretty when it's all green, and we do get a lot of rain. So this mountain that we were looking at on the left, that we just circling around, is it gets 400 inches of rain a year. So that's Eel Valley, and that's one of the most rainiest spots in the world. So it usually comes downhill here, more back further closer to Lahaina. It's more greenery still. And this is just part of the mountain. So driving on Maui, people are very courteous for the most part. The people that live here, the tourists, yes and no. But the people that live here, they let you merge in, they shaka you, give you the, what you would say, the high five, the hang 10. But yeah, they pretty courteous out here, drivers. We only have one road, and we can only go so fast, and we can always, can go, one way. So everybody gets there eventually. Let's see. had a lot of fishing along the roads here. So if you come to Maui, you do not need a permit or a license or anything to fish, whether it be from the shore or on a boat. You do not need a license or a permit to fish. Pretty much can catch anything you want if you can catch it. Since we've been closed for the last 6 months, there's a lot of fishing going on. Everybody seems to be fishing. The Hawaiians and, you know, everybody, the locals that live here, have been fishing a lot. And they dive, they spearfish. Off here to the right is Thousand Peaks. It's a lot of surfing that goes on there. It's small surfing. It's for the beginner to intermediate surfing. You got to go kind of farther out there. It's pretty much coral all the way out there. There's some sandy spots, but it's got small waves right now, but it's for beginners to intermediate, and the waves are pretty far out there because it's pretty shallow. We have these green facilities here at the parks where you park to use the restrooms, and you can park pretty much anywhere here. Our parking is free pretty much everywhere you go, other than when you're staying at a resort. But any place you park is free. You can camp anywhere on Maui. You just have to get a permit from the rangers. I know people have gotten away with it. I don't know how often they check, but I do know they go by the campsites and check at night. People camping along the ocean anywhere, you can find a spot. Passing on the left here is our fire range where you shoot your guns. People do have them. It's not a lot. You never hear anybody being hurt by one. You just know people going there to practice. So to the right here, a lot of people like to camp because all these trees and shades in here. It does get flooded quite a bit when it rains. The water will come clear out here to the road. And they do kayak out through here. I did a company years ago that kayaked through here. There's a lot of surfing that goes on here towards the end, right before we go up this hill. Now we're coming into the Poly. This is called the Poly. This is a 4-mile stretch. It'll be 22 turns. I counted them. And so this Poly is kind of, you have to drive offensively and defensively, especially during whale season when the tourists are here, and because they're trying to look out to the ocean for the whales, and then they either make a stop by hitting their brakes or they make a turn, and then we have accidents in this Poly, which backs up the traffic, you know, for a long time, hours, because we only have one road. This is the road to the airport, the road back from the airport, the road to Walmart and all the other places. So it's a pretty enjoyable ride. It's been burned. Several months ago, we had someone burn this thing 5 times in 1 week. Within a week, they kept burning it. We have netting here along the rocks here to keep the rocks from falling, boulders. We do have boulders that come down almost every year. So they have this strong netting to hold it up. So yeah, we're entering, this is the Poly. Still 45 miles an hour, but sometimes people drive too slow. I think the tourists do because they don't know how to drive it, but you just drive the average speed, 45, you get through it. We have a tunnel we're going to go through here. It's a small tunnel. You have to watch for bicycles because they go through here. And a lot of times the rocks seem to come down before or after the tunnel. Not sure why, but it seems to be where they end up always. People like to honk. People honked in that tunnel. The bus is coming through here. He's going back to Lahaina side from the middle of the island, from several parts of the island. And that's an enjoyable ride. It's safe. $2 to ride the bus, $4 for a day pass. You can pretty much transfer buses to buses, bus to bus to bus. So yeah, this has all been burned. So it's all brown. It's not fun to look at it, but it's still the island. And it's just been burned so many times in the last 7-8 years. People keep burning it. Burned 7,000 to 8,000 acres. So we get plenty of rain. It's just when you only have a twig to grow. It even burns here on the right side, the ocean side. It'll jump the road. So this is the Poly. 22 turns here. So when you're driving this, you should, kind of stay more to the right, because if someone was to cross the road, they recently put these little divot things in the middle so that people know they're crossing the yellow line, but you still should always try to drive closer to the right so that if someone was to accidentally come across, you'd have more time to react. Bicycles ride through here, but when you're on the right, so then you got to watch for bicyclers, because people do paddle through this, do ride their bikes through this. You have mopeds that come through here. Some people call this the 5-mile stretch, but actually if you read the mile markers, it's only 4 miles. So I'm kind of stickler about that because it's only 4 miles, but some people call it 5-mile stretch, but it's called a Pali, P-A-L-I, Pali, I as an E. So here we're coming upon the scenic lookout. It's 1,000 feet. This is where I did one of my videos where I stood here and you could see Molokini, and the other side, the south side of the island, Wailea, Kihei side is what we're looking at now. As we're looking to the right, you'll see the other side of the island as we're going towards the central. And right in front of us coming up is going to be Maui Harbor, which is where your aquarium is, the new whale 3D dome. I can't remember if that's an exact name of it, but it's at the aquarium. It's really good. I actually seen that last year. And then you have it's at Maui Harbor, which all those boats go out to Molokini, and they do some whale watching. They say it's the windiest harbor in the world, so I'm going to say it's one of the windiest harbors in the world, because I don't know if it's factual that it is the windiest harbor in the world, but it's extremely, extremely windy. So most of the time the boats go out pretty smoothly. Coming back in, there's sometimes it could be a little rough. Not always, but I've been on several boats. I've promoted a lot of boats. I know a lot about the boats. I used to work for a boat, not here at Maui, but in Lahaina, or Kaanapali, and I know a lot about that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, a lot of wind over here at Maui Harbor. There is a small beach area. There's a fishing area. People live right there. There's a town of houses in Maui, which we're almost there now. So when you're booking your boats, you have to know which harbor you're going out of. There's only 2 harbors, Maui Harbor and Lahaina Harbor. Maui Harbor, they all go to Molokini, and they also do whale watching. Lahaina Harbor, they're going to go to Lanai. There's some that go to, they go whale watching, some just come into different areas outside of Lahaina, and some will go to Honolulu Bay, but for the most part they don't go that far because they save on fuel. The boats on Kaanapali, they don't go out of a harbor, but they go right off the shore, and those boats all go to Honolulu Bay at different hours. They go over to Lanai. So you have to know when you book your boat, where you're going out of and where you're actually staying, because if you're on the south side of the island, to get to the west side of the island to take a boat, it's going to take you an average of 45 minutes one way, and most of the time the boats go out early, so you'd have to be there an hour before, and you don't want to be late. So this is Maui Harbor, the next 2 exits. Maui Boat Harbor, and it's showing us that we're headed towards Kihei Junction, Wailupu. U.S. Coast Guard station is here as well. So you can turn right here, right there, takes you down there, or this one here, Maui Village, which you have some restaurants in there again. You have restaurants and food and stuff. And this is they call them Maui Harbor Shops. So that's where the aquarium is, and it's free to park there. So they don't charge for parking. The parking lot is free to park when you go to the aquarium. And then you have, like I said, a 3D sphere of the whales, which was really good. I really enjoyed that. They just put that in 2 years ago, I think it was. You have a gas station here. You have the Carl's Jr., Green Burrito, Circle K, so you have a convenience store there. You have miniature golf here, bumper boats. right there at that light that we just passed. So that's the first light into coming from the other side, is at Maui Harbor. The next light we're coming up on is North Kihei Road, and then the next light will be we call it 380, or excuse me, Derry Road, and I believe it's 380. There's only 3 roads, so you have Kihei, 380 going to the airport, and then you just keep going straight on this road. This is Highway 30, or the main road, Ono Apiliani Road. So again, off to the left, it's all still brown from being burned to last year or the year and a half ago. These 2 trucks are kind of driving crazy. Went off the side of the road. Now, they know each other. Everybody knows everybody. When you're driving around, you see friends and stuff, and you might stop and talk and pull over and talk to each other. To the left here, I dispatched, there's a place you can park and go hike up that mountain right there. People do that quite often. Again, this light right here, if you turn right, you'll go to Kihei, Wailea, and McKenna, which is the south side of the island. And that is highway, looks like Highway 310 East, or North Kihei Road. It's a little windy. When we first make this next right turn onto Highway 380, or we call Derry Road, there's always cops in this area here, and there's a SUV vehicle that sits on the opposite side of the road and catches everybody coming around the curve. He's usually there daily in his unmarked vehicle. It's an SUV, gray, black car. He even puts a one of those advertisements on his door to kind of hide himself, but he will get you. We also sometimes have motor cops in this area. About 3 or 4 years ago, I think 3 years ago, they added motor cops to our island. We didn't have motor cops before, what we do now. So they usually sit in this area as well sometimes. This area goes from 45 to 55. Off to the left here is where we used to have the sugar cane, but now you'll see it's not at this moment, but it usually has sunflowers. They've now created an area for sunflowers, and one day when they're blooming again, because they just cut them back, I will take a video of that, because I've actually stopped there a few times. I always like stopping there because that's where that unmarked car sits, so you'll never know what kind of mood he's in. But it's on the side of the road. There's a place to stop. You can take pictures of the sunflowers. So all this has been burned as well. As we're coming here, this was burned last year. I want to say maybe November, September, October, November last year, one of those months. Both sides of this road here was burnt. You'll see it, when we get up a little further, you'll see the area. You can't see it because some of this stuff on the side of the road is re-blossomed, but it's been burned. And it usually has cattle on it on the left. And see here, you can see the twigs. It's just all been burned. Someone's burned it. And these aren't controlled fires, these are uncontrolled fires. See all the twigs, all brown. So it's, out of all the islands, Maui is the one that gets burned. You don't hear about fires. There was one last week on Oahu, but you don't hear about the fires on the other islands. It's always Maui. And Maui is the largest tourist industry of all the islands. Not sure why, but it gets burned. The video I did a few days ago, it's been a week now, I think, almost a week, last Tuesday, where a guy was lighting the field right behind me, which is by Kapalua Airport, and he lit 8 fires, and I heard they were chasing him, but I don't know if they ever caught him, so that kind of keeps your, your alarm, your alert, because you don't know if they caught him, if he's going to keep, lighting the island on fire or not. There was another guy last year that went around lighting fires on all sides of the island, and he ended up burning 15,000 acres. They ended up catching him. He was in one of those big dually trucks, and they caught him. And don't know his reasoning behind it, but he was caught though. But he left a lot of places burned. In the area we just passed, that was one of the areas that he burned. So all this is field to the right. This all was sugarcane for many, 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 many years. There's no more sugarcane being burned on the island. In the background to the right, I'm not sure if you could see it while I'm driving, is the sugar mill. People still work there. There's a meat plant there as well called Punene meat plant that people work there. The sugar mill might be being used for something else right now, I'm not sure. So there's also the Friends of the Library in that area. It's a small little bookstore that we have that sells books. They used to be for 10 cents each, now they're a quarter. This lady found books in the trash, and she's like, an older woman, she goes, "We don't throw away knowledge." So they got this old one-story small little house shack and began to open. It was called Friends of the Library, and you can go in there, and it used to have spider webs and stuff, but they've actually cleaned it up, and it's all volunteers working in there. And you go in there and just make sure you got a couple bucks, because with $2 you can walk out, with several, 8 books or so. It used to be 10 cents, but now they're 25. So you can find some videos in there. There's a few board games they'll have in there, but they're all categorized, and there's all different books in there for 25 cents. There's a few rare books in there that they'll have, well, they'll tag them maybe $2 or $5. But I've gone in there quite often and coming out with some treasures. And then you can take the books back, or you can donate books there. Anytime our libraries can't, once they mark down their books and they can't sell them on their little dollar rack, they'll send them all to the Friends of the Library in Punene, in the middle of the island here by the sugar cane plant. So we're coming into Kaului. This is the first light into town. On the right is King's Cathedral. It's our largest church, where if you're a Christian, all your large speakers speak here. Benny Hinn, Joyce Myers, Kenneth Copeland, Cindy Jacobs, Jesse Duplantis, all those will speak at this church because it's the largest facility to hold people. And to the right, which you can't see at the moment, there's a restaurant called Zippy's that's 24 hours. I don't know if it is right now because of the shutdown, but it might be limited hours, but it was usually 24 hours, and you can go in there and get a meal. So the second light in town here is Walmart, and then if you take that road all the way down, you'll run into Target. So this is considered Dairy Road, and this is the new bypass. It says Airport Hana straight ahead, Dairy Road to the left. Okay, to the left was the main road forever. This opened 3 years ago when they opened the other bypass. So this is just a little extra area here that you can just go straight, and then you go right into the airport. If you go to the left, turn left on Dairy Road, then you'll pass the McDonald's, the Jack in the Box, the Wendy's, all that kind of stuff. The Office Max and those kind of stores. There'll be 6 lights right there, 5, 6 lights right there. This one, they opened it up, and you just go straight to the next light. You turn right, you go to Hana, Haleakala, you go straight, you go right into the airport. So when you come out of the airport, you just go straight. If you want to hit the McDonald's or Costco first, coming out of the airport, you're going to make a right at this light, and then a right at the next light, you'll be right at Costco. So it's right the first light out of the old light. First old way is the first light, but basically now you got to make 2 rights to get to Costco coming out of the airport. Our Costco does have a gas station. It never used to. It's only been about 3 years that they added gas. So before you didn't have gas there, and all your rental cars are, in the area. So I'm making a right onto Hana Highway. This takes you to Paia. This takes you to Haiku. This takes you to Haleakala Highway, which will take you up to Makawao, Pukalani, anything we call up country. When you're going into Paia town, you go through Paia town, then you get to Mama's Fish House, which you'll see that. Hookipa Beach, which is my favorite beach, and then it goes out to Haiku. So I've been videotaping for about 30 minutes now. I didn't start right at my house. I started right at the bypass. But yeah, so you can see the mountain in the background here. All that's green. Not too many fires there. We have had fires on both sides of these roads here, this is right next to the airport. And then so it's all brown. So your next light here, if you turn left coming up here instead of right goes up the mountain, left goes to the heliports, the helicopter ports, okay, where you have 5 different companies that do helicopter rides. So you would turn left at this light that we're coming up on to go to a helicopter ride, and then you go back in there. And they do charge for their parking. There's a lot before, gravel lot before that you can park outside, but there's a security shack there, and I don't know, I can't remember if they validated or not. I went on the helicopter last year sometime, but I can't remember if they validated. They might have for me because of my work, but they usually charge a few bucks. It's not really expensive, but you have to go through the guard shack to get there. So, but yeah, that's where your helicopters are. So it's a different entrance than the main airport. Again, see the sign, Paia 4 miles from here, Haiku and Hana 48 miles. Well, that doesn't sound like a long time, but from the middle of the island where we're at, Hana takes about 2 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours. From the west side of the island to get to Hana, it's an average of 3 to 3.5 hours to get there one way. It's 77 miles wide from the west side to the east side, which is Hana, and the west side, again, it's 77 miles, but you're not going to get there quickly as you think, based on the mileage, because the roads out there, they're 1-lane roads where they're one going each direction, but you get to a place where you cross all these bridges, and then only so many cars can cross, and they only can cross one side at a time, including it's usually about 10 miles an hour out there, 15. There's 222 turns, if I got it correctly. There's different numbers out there, but I believe it's 222 turns to get out to Hana. They have plenty of waterfalls out there. It's the tropical side of the island. There is a town. You'll enter into Hana town by Hana Bay, and then you want to keep going